Athanasius Kircher's Theatre of the World is a 2009 book of cultural biography by the British author Joscelyn Godwin. Godwin was born in Oxfordshire in 1945 and studied music at Cambridge, where he gained an MA in 1969. He moved to the USA shortly afterwards and eventually became a professor of music at Colgate University in New York State. His particular field of interest is the overlap between music and what's sometimes misleadingly called the occult. He's published several popular and academic books in both fields. That can make him controversial, of course. His 2007 book, The Golden Thread, is a lay history of Western esotericism, written by someone who believes, as not all scholars do, that it forms a continuous strand rather than simply being a recurring offshoot of Christianity in its various forms. Personally, I don't have a problem with that, providing an author isn't falsifying and or concealing historical facts for evangelical purposes. I don't think it matters. The Golden Thread subtitle is The Ageless Wisdom of the Western Mystery Traditions. But what about the Kircher book? Athanasius Kircher was born in Germany in 1602 and grew up to become a Jesuit, and also one of the greatest scholars of his time, to the extent that he's nowadays sometimes compared to Leonardo da Vinci. This video will incorporate just a few of the 410 illustrations in Joscelyn Godwin's extended discussion, but of course they're not a substitute for the original. Science involves continual revolutions, so much of any scientist's work will eventually look outdated and a little quaint. On the enduring side, Kircher was amongst the first to suggest that the plague was transmitted by microorganisms, that Christianity had briefly and early on established itself in China, and that the Coptic language is a descendant of ancient Egyptian. He developed a primitive theory of evolution, built a magnetic clock, and did important work in acoustics and set theory. And that's not an exhaustive list of his achievements. On the less enduring side, depending on how you look at it, he believed in dragons, and that Atlantis, of which he drew a map, was located somewhere between Spain and America. He also thought that Hermes Trismegistus, a fusion of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian Thoth, created by unknown Christians in the 2nd century CE, and declared to be the ancient author of a collection of mystical writings, was one and the same person as the biblical prophet Moses. In fact, his interests range across the whole of esotericism. He was particularly interested in the Kabbalah. He'd been taught in childhood to read Hebrew by a rabbi. He was also fascinated by divination and astrology. It may seem strange to us that a committed Christian could believe in such things, but that says more about the version of Christian history that several centuries of Protestantism have conditioned us to accept than it does about reality. Until the Reformation in the 16th century, Christianity was rarely as exclusivist as it is now. Of course, from the point of view of the contemporary reader, Kircher was above all a fine artist. His intellectual adventurism has appealed to a wide variety of modern authors, not least Umberto Eco, who called him the most contemporary among our ancestors and the most outdated among our contemporaries. His drawings have retained a considerable mystic aura. Godwin's compendium of his work is a significant contribution to Renaissance scholarship. It's divided into 15 chapters, each devoted to a different aspect of his work, and each fully considered in the light of the wider academic discussion. There's a robust bibliography and an index. On its publication in 2009, Philip Pullman called it a stupendously good piece of design, adding, "The author and the publisher have taken real, prolonged, and exhaustive pains to make a beautiful book, and succeeded." I'd second that. As an imaginative artist at least, Kircher has been unjustly forgotten. This book will hopefully go some way towards remedying that.